we are going to be reading, or we are going to be discussing Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And
Chapter
we
20 to 26.
I was going to say, we pretty much, I think, powered through most of section 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right, David, take it away.
So this read, I actually really kind of like this read because we're essentially getting into the meat of the conversation. As we kind of talk through it, just kind of think of what stories, what quotes, and maybe what selection of words kind of helps you with the technicality of like the things that he's talking. So starting off, he's talking about the solving the 90-10 riddle, and then he goes into the different types of investors. So solving the 90-10 riddle, one of the stories he talks about here is, McDonald's. They're not in the business of selling hamburgers. They're in the business of real estate. Right. And so he also goes into in this chapter like the BI triangle, which to me I love because it's almost like a visual way of how to set up a business. And so I actually did a little bit more research, and he used his wallet business as an example. When he went back to his rich dad, he was looking for money, looking to raise capital. And he said, well, why would I invest in a business in a product that has a terrible business? And so this is how he came up with the BI triangle, because, he needed to systemize not only the product, but, how the business runs, how the business raises capital, all these different things. And so in this chapter, we kind of talk about the killer of ideas as well. Solving the 90-10 riddle, I think when we talked about it once finishing up the first part of the book, does it give you a different perspective of the 90-10 riddle?
I mean, well, I'm mad that they made it go from 80-20 to 90-10.
That's just Kiyosaki. He pisses you off, it just that's his thing. No, but it's the eternal question of, so you want assets, you want assets to pay for stuff. But so the riddle is, how can I create them myself instead of buy them? And I talked about this last week, and now we got into it in this chapter, talked about the comic books.
Right.
I got to thinking, because we're talking about hiring a VA finally, and we interviewed some people yesterday, and I'm trying to decide, because the transaction coordinator I work with, she needs some help because she's trying to get back into real estate herself. So I'm trying to come up with an idea. Wait a minute, could we hire a VA to do some of her and kind of create like kind of a little sub company to help her? So, but it's thinking like that, like how can you, it's always having your mind open, because we're all surrounded by it. We're not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's probably the biggest takeaway when he talks about it, is getting out of your comfort zone and starting getting creative, right? I mean, that's why my conversation with this client went as far and as deep as it did, because he was thinking, okay, dad can buy these houses. He's got all this equity. How can we go to a conventional lender? I'm like, conventional lender? No, wrong. Like, it'll slow you down. Dad has to let's go to a hard money lender. Let's use his equity as his portion, get 5 times the multiple, whatever you bring to the table. And the next thing you know, you're sitting on $500,000, and it was a much easier, shorter process. Now it cost him a little bit more, but it will get him to netting more much quicker. And so I think that, looking at everything through the eyes of, is this going to make the boat go faster?
Mm-hmm.
Helps you get to that 90% of the wealth in 10% of the people's pockets, because those are the people that look at everything creatively and make sure that they're making wise purchases and they're buying assets and not liabilities.
Right. Natalie, anything to add?
No, that's interesting. I was just talking to my dad actually about this morning, and about his beginning in real estate, and because he's always asking me how my journey's going. And we were discussing about the liabilities and assets that they used to have when they were younger. And I told him yes, we need to stop buying liabilities and start buying assets instead, and focusing that money there. But it's so hard because I wish there was something that was besides real estate. That's the easiest answer, but like some invention or business idea that I had. But I think I'm probably more leaning towards being an investor into others' dreams, and then trying to figure out what business do I want to go into, because I can't think of anything yet.
Right. Right.
Real
So
estate.
Well, yeah, that's the easy one.
right. And so actually, as we transition here to like the different categories of investors, so it's almost like, you know, reading the book up until now, it's almost like, well, we're talking a lot about business. We're talking about like a lot of technical business things. And you start thinking, well, I thought this was guide to investing, and so once he gets into the categories of investing, he starts talking about sophisticated investors, and he starts talking about, the ultimate investor and the inside investor.
Mhm.
Well, these folks are kind of sophisticated, and they're at that level because they understand business. And
Right.
so they're able to look at investments, which essentially are other businesses, and kind of determine the health of the business. And what better way to figure that out than, in his point, to be an inside investor. As he goes through the different types, so accredited investors, that's really more of just a technical on paper type thing. There's really nothing but, essentially it indicates that the individual may be able to accept larger amounts of risk because they make more. But it says nothing about their business skills, nothing about how they invest, nothing about really anything other than, they can take on more risk. So essentially, many active investors are really unqualified by Rich Dad standards. What do you think this does to our economy, and how do you think this creates opportunities? Kind of knowing that most active investors are essentially unqualified. They either don't have the education, don't have the experience, or don't have the excess cash. Because he talks about for accredited investors, even excess cash is iffy there, because if they don't have skills of the rich, if they still have those skills of the middle and poor class, excess cash goes away quick. So what do you think this kind of does to our economy, and how would it open up opportunities?
I think it unfortunately keeps a lot of people stifled, but I think it's more lack of education that keeps them stifled. Because like Natalie, to your point, you're saying, okay, I need a business that's going to give me access to stuff. Well, at any given time, you can create a business that gives you access to stuff, right? It starts by building your credit. So that was something else I was just talking to my client about, right? I mean, last year I killed it in sales. The year before that, I smashed it in sales. This year, well, I might start to death. It's finally starting to pick back up. I got like 6 listings that hopefully will be hitting the market here in the next couple weeks. So, all these people that were supposed to list in spring are finally going to list in Q3, my favorite quarter. But, one of the things I was telling my client today was, and I was kind of thinking a little bit about the book, was, there are ways to invest and do flips without using the equity in his dad's house. Although I think he should be using the equity in his dad's house, because I think you should put that money to work. And he was asking me, okay, like, what are you talking about? I said, well, when I first got in business, the first thing I did was open a bank account and got a credit card for the business. I started building that business credit. Well,
Right.
my business credit went from $1,000 up to David and I think our business credit, well, it's all through Laura Beth Holmes, but we've been building the dollar amount, and I think we have $63,000 cash, which turns into $310,000 as far as hard money goes, right? So now David and I have $310,000 cash, so we can go buy the house. I have another $20,000, 25,000 on a credit card that we can buy the material. And then I've got $30,000 worth of credit that we can buy material between Lowe's and Home Depot. So in essence, David and I right now today could go buy a $400,000 house And we are literally both at this much risk.
Right.
I want in on that. I'll give you 10K.
You know, and now that we've been using that credit, like I'm sure if I went to Truist, because we used 25,000 on the last house from Truist. Well, if I went to Truist and said, hey, Truist, I need 50,000, like getting your lines of credit increased, it's like a refi, right? It's a lot easier than that initial
Right.
first line of credit. So if you don't have a business line of credit today, go get one.
Right.
And go to Truist. They're the easiest. Truist and Cabbage. There's a lot of banks out there that won't give us lines of credit because our industry. But you know, I think that learning and understanding that it doesn't all have to come from your bank account, I think is probably what holds people back the most. And so to me, it's just education. I think that's what I think if everybody was educated, I think becoming an accredited investor could happen in a year or two for most of us.
Right.
Right.
But like you said, I mean, people just aren't learning. They're not putting the time into it. And I guess that's why, you need to be accredited to be able to buy into the big stuff, because I mean, it's almost like they're expecting the people to fail because they don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like, well, at least the rich people do it. They've got a cushion. You know what I mean? It's here because they're just not, they don't know,
Right.
But the cool thing is, and like we've all learned, you don't need to be like, have Donald Trump pockets to make things happen. I mean, if you learn some stuff and you learn the path, you can make stuff happen, So it's just it's all about learning. Like I said, I love the fact that the whole first part of the book is talking about business and business and business and business in an investing book. And that's why I love the idea of investing in real estate, because we've been doing it as a business. All right, Natalie's out of here.
Bye, Natalie.
Thank
Bye,
you,
my
guys.
friend. I'm sorry I was a few minutes late. I apologize.
It's all Laura Lerman's fault.
It's totally my fault today. I'm so sorry.
Don't edit that out.
Bye.
Bye. Right. So there's another side of this too that I kind of want to point out. So he talks about a technical investor as well when he talks about qualified investors. And I think this is another pitfall that people fall into as well. So a fundamental investor is boring. So that kind of goes back to the whole, people don't really like boring. So I think a lot of people jump to technical investing. And me being one of them, I learned technical investing really before I learned anything fundamental that we've talked about in this book. Like looking at, the outlooks of the economy, the industry, interest rates. I learned all of that after technical investing. Right. And so it's just like, I can imagine, someone having quite a bit of cash just from, whether it's a job, whatever it is, now just funneling money as a technical investor, not having any fundamentals. Got another, sticky situation there, because you really, there's no plan to it. And what we're learning from this book, there has to be a plan. Or that's the biggest risk, Right.
Well, I would say that's probably where most people fail, right? Is they don't have a plan. And that was the first thing that I told Arnold today was, listen, you got to know what your objective is.
Right.
Are you looking to make 100 grand a year in flipping? Okay, great. Let's say you make 150. Well, what do you do with that 50,000? You've got to know today where tomorrow's money is going to go and how you're going to use it and what your stop losses are. And, we talked a little bit about Hateville and about how, you mitigate those risks by having that plan and understanding, okay, yes, I see the loss. I can see the loss. I've got my numbers. I've got my plan. I need a bail now where it's a $5,000 loss as opposed to in 6 months when it turns into a $100,000 loss.
Right.
Right.
And stick to the plan. I think that's, that's probably the bigger problem more than lack of having a plan. I think most of us don't actually stick to it.
Exactly.
So like you said, like sometimes the plan's boring and nobody wants boring.
Right. Right. So that also goes into the investor control. So that was the last thing I wanted to bring up. So control of yourself, control of your income expense, and your asset liability ratios. management of the investment, huge. Taxes also huge. When you buy and sell, brokerage transactions, etc. The intricacies of that are so deep. He does a very good job explaining it, very simplistically. But I don't know corporate law as well, but from tax law, etc. actually goes very deep. And so I think truly having control of that, like he says, really kind of separates like sophisticated investors, insider investor, ultimate investors. They generally have these last few control of etc, terms and agreements, terms of the agreements, and then access to information, and then once you get to the end, redistribution of wealth. So those investor controls, does anyone feel confident in any of them as of right now, or maybe feel any better about like how to change that?
I am definitely not in control of any of them, me being number one. However, for me, I think the best way to get in control of everything is to create a team. I would say over the last 2 years, being at EXP, I don't really have a team. I mean, I got my assistants, right? But I don't really have a team per se on anything. But what I am finding is creating some accountability and creating teams and working within a world where you actually have experts over each area makes staying in control of the controls easier. Because when you've got a team and you've got your experts and you've got people that where you fail that are good, it alleviates, I think, a lot of the mishaps. And I would say one thing for me that I will never do, I will never try to go it alone again. I may be the only business owner, right? It may be my
Right.
thing, but I will never make the mistake of trying to go it alone without a team, without experts, no matter the cost again.
Right.
The faster we look at ourselves in the mirror and tell ourselves we're not the smartest one, we don't know anything, the faster we get to that, the better this is going to go. So I'm with you. Like, I don't have the team per se, but there's so many different things that, like, I used to do my taxes myself until become a realtor, and then there's all this stuff, and I'm just like, not only does it cost me money, but that he offsets it by making me a crap ton more money than I would have done on my own. But I'll never touch taxes again. And there's all that other stuff. So it's about knowing your lane and staying in your lane and having the right people in all the other lanes.
Exactly.
Yeah. To me, that's the best way to work through your controls, because
I like that. Good job, Laura.
thanks. I'm amazing,
So-
even late.
So assignment for next week, I can drop it in the chat. So I'm thinking basically 3 more weeks. So chapter 27 to 36, it's a little over 2 hours. Here we're getting into some technical business controls. So we get a little further into the controls and systems. And then after that, we're going to do 37 to 40. It's a little over 2.5 hours, surprisingly enough. But it's enough to talk about in one session. And then after that, 41 to the end, it's like an hour and a half. But I can text all of that in the group.
So the last one, we're gonna read through conclusion and all of that,
Excuse me.
right?
Correct. Yeah. So 41 to the end of conclusion.
Got it.
Yep.
But we're going through 36 this week.
Correct.
Product management.
Yes. That's a good
David's job.
How to get rich slowly.
Yes. That one I'm actually excited about.
Cool.
So, but that
I
brings
drove all the way
us-
to Woodstock on a listing appointment today, so
Nice.
Sweet.
Nice. That'll be some good listening time. Have you picked up a ton this week, Steve, over the last week or two?
Kinda. I mean, I got a condo downtown that, like, we had a good bunch of showings, but nobody put any offers in on it. I'm seeing people kind of stick their heads up a little bit. I think the debt ceiling deal being done, I think gives hope that the rates are going to come down at some point.
Okay, we'll go with that.
I
They
mean,
will in 2 years.
they're going to come down.
2
When
years.
I don't know. I've just started saying they'll get below 6% sometime before I retire. I'm very comfortable saying that. I used to say it was going to be sometime Q3. Now I'm saying it's before I retire. And I could be
Before
wrong.
before you finish paying your 30-year mortgage off, you will be able to drop the interest rate.
Let me tell you something right now. I bought my house 6 years ago. This will be my last thought for the day. I had a buddy who's selling an $800,000 house in Swanee. She said, "Oh, it's really big. You have a really big family. They'd love it." I'm like, I bought my house for $270 6 years ago, right? For shits and giggles, I pulled the numbers and I looked, and my mortgage would be 3 times the price it is. 3 times. If I sold, put everything into it, it's no wonder nobody's selling their freaking house.
Yeah.
Would you pay 3 times the amount on your house for like a
What's-
slightly bigger house, a slightly nicer house?
That's where we are. And the next house we're doing is building. And then at that point, I would have exactly what I wanted. But so my personal opinion of the progression of what's going to come. To your point, I think now that the debt ceiling is done, I don't think we have any other political nonsense to worry about until August of next year. August of next year, everybody will get their panties in a wad because it's election time. It happens every 2 years. It is what it is. But I think you're going to start seeing buyers get more and more scared that the interest rates are going to keep climbing, because I think we're about to see another hike up.
Based on
Just some stuff my lender and I were chatting about yesterday. I have a lender that thinks they're going to that interest rates are going to 8%.
I don't see them going any higher than they are right now. I see no pressure pushing them back up. Now, every time I say that, they go back up. But
So
it's make-believe BS to me. I think it's a political.
from an
It is.
economic standpoint, monetary policy, they only have control of essentially like monetary policies, so like interest rates. And so for them, I think their economic outlook, they lower the interest rates, it'll actually heat up the market again.
Right.
And for them, they're trying to keep the market low. So
Well, it's
they're not
inevitable.
gonna-
I mean,
they're not going to want to come down. If you think
2
about
years.
it from an economic standpoint, you're going
It's
to
2
want to
years.
leave it. And if the market continues to go like the heat up, regardless of the interest rates, the only thing they know to do is to continue.
I
kinda
think we will see
sucks.
8. Unfortunately, I think we will see 8. But then what I think what's going to keep happening. Sorry, I'm stuck. I was like stuck under my desk. I'm sorry. But what I think is going to keep happening is I think you're going to start seeing buyers get more and more nervous. If I don't buy today, is the interest rate going to hit 13%? Now, I don't think it'll hit 13%. And I always find it takes about 6 months when the interest rate goes up,
Mhm.
the market goes for 6 months, and then people start saying, okay, well, this is the new norm. And then you start seeing that entry back in. I am terrified at what's going to happen when we hit 5%. Because when we start hitting back in the 5s, you've got all these buyers that are gearing up, and you've got all these sellers that have been waiting that are, yeah.
Hi, Craig.
Who that?
David,
You don't recognize that voice?
Oh,
your favorite
Hey.
person.
how's it go, gentlemen?
What's going on, man?
Not too much. Got a shirt on today.
Thank you.
He's
Thank you.
not naked.
Thank you,
Just for
Jesus.
you. I knew you were on the phone, Steve, so I figured let me get dressed before I come
Thank
in.
you. Thank you. Now, when you go to the side, take your pants off now. You're good. Okay. Once you get to the side. Thank you. Now you're good. You're clear.
Do you want me to just
No onions. It's no onions.
do you want like a sandwich, like a wrap, or you want
Yeah.
like a platter?
A wrap is fine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Whatever. Just give me food. I'm starving. I'm gonna die.
We're still
Oh, man,
recording,
that's-
right?
She's 10 minutes
Good.
late, and she's getting lunch at the end of the video. This is
What?
something else.
I love this one.
I
This
can't
is,
help it.
this is why people watch, though.
Gives me this.
They don't watch the book schmuck, man. What's Laura doing today?
Watch to the end. You'll see the hot mess that
Right.
she is.
Just get to the end. They talk about market updates. They joke around.
Right. Right. Yes, Christian, don't take any of this out. This is all great. Leave it there. People may want to see it.
Right.
But anyway, I'm terrified when interest rates hit back in the fives. And I don't think, I don't think we'll ever see below 4.5%. And I think that'll be a very rare dip in the, in the market.
They left it there too long. The
Mhm.
problem is they left it there way damn too long because everybody's sitting on a 2.5 or a 3.
Mhm.
So I think the opportunity would lie then in being able to make a deal work in the current market, and then once it comes back down to that 5%, finding out how to.
Because prices are going to keep going up because there's no inventory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
buy it for crazy now with crazy interest rates now. Because if you wait a year, because shoot, you could wait a year and the rates don't come down anyway. Get the damn house.
Right.
Correct. As a matter of fact, I've got my lender running a scenario for me so I can do a reel on if you buy today at 500,000, 20% down, what's your payment? If you buy in a year at 8% higher, because that's about what we're gaining year over year in the Atlanta market right now. If you buy in a year at 8%, what is that going to look like? And then if you wait 2 years and you're now 16% higher, but 5% interest rates, what is that going to look like? And then what does the house you bought today? It's 4 scenarios. He's working through it. And I got to figure out how to make numbers pop up when I talk and shit, or actually I'll just talk and Louis or Christian can make numbers pop up. But we want to run through that scenario because I think it's going to be pretty astounding that at 16% higher in a house in a sales price is more than likely, even at a 5% interest rate, going to result in a much higher mortgage that you don't get to ever decrease.
Right.
And then,
Right.
I mean, to me, the crazy thing is talking to people who are all like, well, I don't want to do anything because the prices are too high. It's like what the hell are you going to do?
Do you think they're coming down?
When are they coming? Why? I mean, I do worry. I mean, at some point, the bubble gets so big it pops. I just don't know what pops it.
I don't think
Rocket Mortgage introducing a 1% mortgage last week. Rocket Mortgage, the 1% mortgage, 1% or 1% down mortgage.
1% down.
Conventional loan, 1% down.
I can do you better. I got 0% down. I got somebody who kills it with Georgia Dream. I've got another lender who's got a 5% and a 3% down payment assist DPA program. If you go with him and you refi in less than 5 years, they'll pay your closing costs for the refi. I got a lot of programs that are very attractive right now. David and them used one of them.
I was just about to say, Laura got us in.
And what really sucks, I found out today, Georgia Dream, if you work for the government, $1,250 instead of $10,000. They just bumped up Georgia Dream by $2,500. So now, if you're a regular Georgia Dream user and you're not a government employee, it's 10 grand. If you are a government employee, you and Lexi would have gotten $1,250 or $12,500. The girl that was that's who I was just talking to. That I think they're probably going to go Georgia Dream and use Andreas as well. Sweet. And their down payment assistance is now bumped up to $12,500.
That's what's up. Give him more business. He was good.
He was very good. And what's so cool about programs like that, and that's what I'm telling my first time home buyers. I mean, they're a $400,000 buyer, so they're buying a reasonable house,
right?
I think, or maybe they're 300,000. I think they're 300,000. But they're looking in areas where we will be able to find that, and their cash due at closing after they get the Georgia Dream mortgage is 11,000. So like probably the most these humans are coming to the closing table with is like probably $5,000. What did you and Lexi have to come with? It wasn't much.
What you mean?
Like it wasn't much at all.
We didn't come to the table with anything.
I didn't think so.
All of it. Yeah, because the earnest money covered it.
Right.
Yeah, by the time, we just didn't get any money back.
Yep. A lot of my first time home buyers are earnest money is the only money they're wiring in right now because I got one that's about to get money back, I think, and she's using one of the Chenoa programs. Sarah, I think she'll end up getting money back at closing, and her earnest money was $1,500.
Right. Wow.
I mean, not that first time home buyers fill your pockets today, but I'll tell you, first time home buyer in 3 to 5 years are selling. Some of the best clients you'll ever, they're a pain in the ass on the front end. If you spend the time and work with them, in 3 to 5 years, they're buying and selling again, and they want to work with you because you've had, they've had such an easy, smooth process.
Right. Word up.
I was one of your first time home buyers, wasn't I?
You were.
Look, I was a
You were.
headache then. Now you're like, who cares?
And now you're starting her YouTube channel, stealing her spotlight.
That's right, motherfucker.
That was the first one of the 33 minutes in. I'm
That's
very
because I was
proud.
frazzled. When I'm frazzled, I can't think. My brain doesn't function normally.
So now it's normal. Now we're dropping the MFs. We're back.
Exactly.
LOL.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Fuck is my favorite word.
I know. We all know. YouTube knows, okay? Breaking
I could have
news.
pieced that together. Yep.
I can't wait till my fucking lunch gets here. I'm starving. Did y'all notice I wasn't eating today on the call either?
Yeah, you usually are eating.
I'm always eating.
I usually eat right after. It makes me hungry. It's like, damn, I'm gonna eat on the call.
All right, I gotta go. I gotta go get ready, y'all.
All right.
Peace. Go
Tuesday.
have a big week, everybody.